Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca and welcome to my YouTube channel, Rebecca's Wild Side. Hi there, it's definitely been a while. I can't remember when my last video was, but I think it was just before I had my daughter. So it was probably early December last year. And now my daughter is 8 months old, which is wild. And I wasn't sure how much knitting I was going to get done after she was born. I didn't knit very much throughout my pregnancy because I wasn't feeling very well, but I actually had a really easy baby and a good newborn. So other than a lot of other things that I had to organise, I did have a little bit of knitting time, and I did get quite a few things done. I noticed, I haven't even told you what the plan is today. This is a podcast. This is going to be kind of like my other knitting podcasts. I've got a few finished objects which have been finished this year. And it's not all of my finished objects this year because there's just so many and I don't think personally I want to talk about all of them. So I've just got some of the standout pieces here that I'm going to show you and a couple of the whips that I've been working on. What I was going to say was that I found throughout the early days of being a mum, I was very much a monogamous knitter. So I could only really focus on knitting one piece, finishing it and then moving on to the next one. Whereas the last few weeks, and I don't know if it has something to do with the fact that my daughter, I'm very fortunate, she's always been a very good night sleeper, but recently she's been sleeping longer stretches in the day, so she kind of has 2 naps a day now and they are a bit longer than they used to be, which is nice. She's sleeping right now, so fingers crossed she stays asleep. So I don't know if it's that or just her becoming a little bit more independent that I am finding I can work on multiple whips at once. So, few finished objects, few whips. Shall we begin? I should also talk about what I'm wearing today. This is supposed to be a camisole number 9. I made this like 2 summers ago, not last summer, maybe the summer before, maybe even the summer before that, I can't remember. And I've never worn it because I didn't like it when I first made it. And now I like it because I only have 2 summer pieces hand knitted in my whole wardrobe, which is wild. But I'm not the biggest fan of summer knitting. I don't love knitting things on tiny needles. But yeah, this is one of them. So it's supposed to be a camisole number 9. I have put elastic by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I don't know if I mentioned that. I've popped elastic in the bottom because when I knit it, it just didn't fit right and it flared out. It's obviously also very cropped. You will see that is a theme when it comes to my knitting. But it's got a beautiful double folded edge all around. And this is knit in Knitting for Olive Merino. I'd like to say it's poppy blue. I definitely think it's poppy blue, but obviously I knit this many years ago. So there it is. I would recommend, this is a very good basic. It's pretty universally bra friendly. And it's just stockinette. It is knit on smaller needles though, but it doesn't have any sleeves and it can be as long or as short as you like. So I'm going to state now that these pieces that I'm showing you were none of my whips in my previous podcast. So these are all new finished objects, and I'll start with, this is very hard to show on camera, so I'll insert plenty of B-roll, which I did take. But this is the Late Summer Wrap by Pernille Larsen, who she designs for the Knitting for Olive brand, and it is knit in a suggested yarn, which is Knitting for Olive Merino and soft silk mohair. This is very hard to show on camera, but it is pretty much like a saddle shoulder wrap, and then it's triangular at the front. It is full stockinette. The original pattern has a folded cuff, but I actually did that and I really didn't like how it looked. So all I did was 2 or 3 rows, very, very short rows of 1x1 rib and then just cast off. And I personally really like the way that looks. The button band, I don't really know. It's just called the front, but it's got kind of a built-in band across the front, which it looks like double knitting, but it's not double knitting. It is just a 1x1 rib with 2 knits at the end. And the ties also look, I'm trying to hide my face. Also look like they might be double knitted, but they're not. I think it looks really, really smart and really polished, and it is obviously a little bit quicker than double knitting. The only thing I would like to say about the pattern is that the design is beautiful. The pattern is incredibly, it's not very logical. So the way the design is designed is, although it's a symmetrical piece, different techniques are used at the start on the neckband. I know other podcasters have spoken about this, and it is mentioned on the Ravelry page under the comments and maybe some like forum posts and things. It is a bit odd the way it's designed. I followed the start. I didn't do a tubular cast on because I don't understand the point of a tubular cast on. Maybe that sounds really ignorant, but I just picked up stitches where it said do the tubular cast on. And then different techniques are used to pick up stitches on the things, which don't make sense to me. But I followed the instructions for most of that. I didn't follow the instructions for the tie and the band across the bottom. And that is because somebody else on a podcast didn't. And I feel like what I did in the end is what they're telling you to do in the pattern, but the pattern uses short rows, and again, I just didn't really understand it, so I kind of just did my own thing. If you ask me, I think it looks very neat and very tidy. Where I picked up, I did the same technique that you would do for a double knitted button band. I would knit along and then pick up 1 stitch from the garment and then knit back. If you'd like a more in-depth tutorial of that, I know that Handmade by Florence Miller, did a double knitting button band tutorial on YouTube, and it is very, very helpful. So I would definitely check that out. The yarn used for this is a classic combination. I use it in a lot of my knitting. It is the Knitting for Olive Merino and the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, both in colour Oatmeal. It's a beautiful, cool beige. I'd say the Soft Silk Mohair really cools it down, but it's really beautiful, and the Merino is 100% Merino wool, and the Soft Silk Mohair is 70% mohair and 30% silk. The pattern calls for 4 or 5 balls, possibly 6, depending on the size that you want to knit. I knit the second size in this pattern, and I actually only used 3. I just broke into the 4th ball. So I used 3 balls and just broke into the 4th. I think you could get away with making the ties shorter, so you probably could get away with 3. Mine is, again, quite cropped though, so that is just my opinion, and really, really happy with that piece. It's very, I feel like it's going to get a lot of wear going into the colder season, and I really, really wanted a wrap cardigan. I will say it did take a little while. I knit it on 4mm needles, which is, I'm not sure if it's the suggested needle size, but for me, I usually knit a mohair and and a fingering weight on a 3.5mm needles because I'm usually a bit of a loose knitter. But I didn't mind if this was quite drapey and open, so I knit it on a 4mm needle. Next up is something I am really, really loving. I never got a chance to wear this because I finished it in the spring. We had a very, very warm spring, and all summer it has been hot in the UK, which I feel like we haven't had a summer like this for a very long time. This was finished probably mid-spring, early spring, probably around April. Yes, because I took it abroad and I went away for Easter. So this was probably finished end of April, and you will have seen me knit this pattern many times. It is a fan favourite on this channel. It is the Celeste sweater by PetiteKnit. I have knit this twice before in an adult size, and once I threw together a baby size. This is my third adult Celeste, and this was kind of inspired by, well, very much Easter, as you can see, but also, so I was supposed to cast on earlier and it was supposed to be a Valentine's Day knit, but yeah, it became an Easter knit and it looks very much like an Easter egg, so I think that's very fitting. The Celeste sweater is a pattern by PetiteKnit. I have quite a few PetiteKnit patterns going at the moment. She's one of my favourite designers, and I have always knit this in Drops Lima, and that is because I love Drops Lima for colour work. The gauge works really, really well for a Peer Gynt sub for me. It's a round yoke knit. It is stranded colour work, which is my favourite type of colour work to do. And I knit mine with a contrast cast on. I didn't do it on the sleeves, I just did it on the neckband, and the colours are dark grey mix, magenta, powder pink, pistachio ice cream and ice blue. This pattern does have short rows after you knit the stranded colour work. I knit a size 2 for this one. I knit it on 4.5mm needles, and I did a Italian bind off. So I love how it looks on this piece. I also did the folded neckband. As you can see in the B-roll, this is also very cropped. I also like it just long enough to tuck into the top of my waistband or my belt, like a French tuck. I just really like that look. I think that's all I have to say about the Celeste sweater. I highly recommend, if you want to do a beginner colourwork piece or are looking to get into colourwork, I highly recommend this pattern. It looks intimidating because there's a lot of different colours, but she only ever uses one strand of each colour on each row. So you only have to be working with 2 yarns at the same time. I forgot to mention that Drops Lima is 100 meters per 50 grams, so to me that's a heavy DK weight, and it's 65% wool, 35% alpaca. I really, really like having the alpaca in this yarn, especially in that design, because it really gives it a bit of fluff without having to hold it with a mohair, and it makes the whole piece look really uniform. This next piece I am very, very excited about. This is something that you actually did see me working on. I told a lie at the start. You have seen me working on this. And I'm very, very excited to introduce my Lauder cardigan. This is a pattern by the CreaBea, Rebecca Clow. And it is an all-over cabled round neck cardigan. This pattern is, if you love cables, something I highly, highly recommend purchasing, because Rebecca is an amazing designer and this is a mega pattern. The pattern is the Lauder cardigan and the Lauder jumper together with both V-neck and round neck, so you get 4 patterns, and then you can also purchase the vest pattern or the slip over pattern separately. Mine is, it's a size 1/2. I really needed to knit a size 2 because it is a little bit small for me. I have aggressively blocked this. I thought the cables would open up a little bit more than they did. I did end up knitting a size 1/2, and that's because I picked up the incorrect amount of stitches for the sleeves. I found picking up the sleeves on this pattern actually very, very difficult, but I think that's a me problem, not a design problem. It is knit in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino and Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, both in the colour Ballerina. This is my first time using the Heavy Merino by Knitting for Olive. I'm not sure about the Heavy Merino. I think if I can get gauge in the future, I would much rather hold the 4-ply Merino double. I'm not quite sure what it is about this yarn that I'm not the biggest fan of. It feels heavy. Like, I know it's called Heavy Merino. It feels like a heavy DK, but I think it works up to be a regular DK weight. And it doesn't feel soft to me. It is a wonderful yarn and the colour options are amazing, and of course quite often they match. And for this pattern, this is what the yarn I needed to knit it with to meet gauge. But yes, in the future I would probably consider holding the Merino double instead of using Heavy Merino. It is 100% Merino yarn. It's 125 meters per 50 grams. And it's just such a beautiful colour. I really wanted a really pale pink cardigan. I wanted this cabled cardigan in this ballerina colour, and I got it. The button band is a 1x1 button band. I have done tubular cast off throughout all of mine. The bottom did flare out a little bit. Which is a common problem that I have. I'm still trying to battle it in a lot of my pieces. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but this is one of those. But I have stretched the garment so much that the button band has blocked out quite a lot. And I'll point out, I did get a clip of this in the B-roll. The shoulders don't sit perfectly on me. I think it's a sizing issue, I think it's a row gauge issue, but I'm just going to overlook that. Like, to me, the design speaks for itself, and it's just, I can't wait to wear it. Again, I haven't been able to wear it because I didn't finish this until probably spring, and it is much heavier than I expected. I have used these buttons. These are actually the back side of a button. I think the other side, there's some kind of stone. I don't think they're shell buttons, but they are, I think they're more stone. And I really, really wanted to use my pearl buttons, but they're quite big, or my mother of pearl buttons. And I sewed one on, and it just took away from the design completely. It was like, you were no longer looking at the cables, you were looking at the buttons, and that is not what I wanted. So I switched over to these, and very happy. I didn't sew a button. I don't know if my buttonholes are to pattern either. I think I might have just put them where I wanted them. I did put a buttonhole on the round neck at the top, but I didn't sew a button on it because I think, one, it would be too heavy, and two, I would never do up that top button. So that's a very, very beautiful piece that I'm excited to wear. And I'm very proud because it is my first full cabled project. I wasn't going to show this, but because I have shown you it before, but I never showed you it on. And I really just want to talk about it because this is such a beautiful, refined piece. And it's quite popular at the moment. This is my Lakes Pullover by Ozetta. I did show you this finished object in the last podcast, so I won't talk too much about it. This is quite a thick piece. Mine is knit in, it's on the screen, Drops, I don't think it's Drops Big Merino, but it might be. Drops Merino and Drops Kid Silk Mohair in the colour Moonshine. And the merino is light grey. It's just beautiful. I just can't wait to wear this, and there's a lot more on this in the previous podcast, which you're more than welcome to go and watch, or just check out the pattern on Ravelry and see what you think for yourself. Mine actually has a double folded collar with 1x1 rib, and my cuffs and cuff? The wrist and bottom cuff are half twisted rib. Okay, hopefully that didn't take up too much time, and we can move on to my whips. I only have 3 whips at the moment, and this is the first time I have been knitting multiple whips at the same time for a long time. And I will start with my Raglan, Alpaca Raglan jumper. This is loosely based on the Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. There's different amount of stitches to the pattern, the gauge is going to be different to the pattern, and I did too many short rows, so the neck should be a little bit deeper than the pattern. But I'm very happy with it so far. What makes this whip different is the yarn. This is knit in oh, stitches, loose stitches. This is knit in Alpaca 2 by Isager. It's knit in the colour Forest. It's one of the only Alpaca 2s that has a name, not a number. So it's a heathered forest dark green. It's got a little bit of olive and a little bit of blue in there as well. I have some here, which is not the same colour, but it's the same yarn. It's Alpaca 2. It's 50% alpaca, 50% wool, and it's 250 meters per 50 grams. So this yarn is very thin. I don't know how to explain it. I've tried to work with this yarn many times and always struggled. I usually start 3 or 4 projects with this yarn before frogging and deciding what I want to do with it. It is very light, very lofty, obviously because of the high amount of alpaca in it, but it is really beautiful knit up. It's just getting the gauge right and making something that you are happy to be so lofty and airy. I hold it double. I think holding it single would be like knitting with the lace weight. It is classed as a fingering weight yarn, but I just think it's much lighter. Very light fingering weight yarn. And yeah, again, loosely based on the Monday sweater, it has a 3-stitch raglan. I'm still doing raglan increases. It is taking a very long time. I am knitting this on 3.5mm needles. It's got a double folded 1x1 neck. There's not much to say about it other than that it's going to be a hopefully oversized raglan sweater. My next whip is a Salcombe sweater by Coco, Amour Knitwear. The original is knit in a navy and an off-white, and I actually had some yarn in stash that I kind of wanted to use up. So mine is very red and white. It is a drop shoulder design, which is something that I have a love-hate relationship with. I don't think I've only knit one drop shoulder before. It's also a Coco Amour Knitwear design. And I don't love the fit and I don't love the style on myself. I don't buy drop shoulder for myself very often. I'm knitting this up in Drops Alaska, which is a very heavy yarn. It is 100% wool and it is 70 meters per 50 grams. So it's a pretty chunky yarn. If you ask me, I think it's actually classed as an Aran, but I'm knitting it on 5mm needles, which it's the recommended needle size for the yarn, and I think it will open up nicely with blocking, but it's already very big. Maybe not. It's all curled up at the sides. It's that type of yarn that really curls up because it's so chunky. It does not want to play ball, but now that I have joined for the body, it's sitting much nicer. It's a little bit giving Where's Wally, which at first I thought it was Dennis the Menace, and then I googled it and Dennis the Menace is black and red, but white and red is giving Where's Wally. It's also giving Arsenal. I'm not a big football fan, I just know a little bit through my husband, so there's that. It is a very simple design. You cast on the back, you knit the back, you then pick up for shoulders, you do German short rows through the shoulders, You then increase a little bit under the underarms and round the neck to make the neckline, join for the body, and then just knit and pick up for sleeves. Not my favourite colours, but could be something I could like throw on for a walk. So that's that. The colours I'm using are colour 69, which is called Pearl White, and colour 11, which is dark red. I just had a little panic because I couldn't find the baby monitor, but it's right next to me and baby girl is sleeping. My last whip is a sock. If you have been here before, you will know that I am not a sock knitter. I usually knit a sock or 80% of a sock and then don't knit anymore or don't knit a second one. There is one or two, but one pair of socks that I have knit in the past and completed and loved, and that is the Petal Drop socks by Handmade by Florence Miller. They are such a cute, I haven't got much to show you because I only just started it. But they are a really beautiful lace sock. I would really recommend checking out this pattern if you enjoy sock knitting. If you enjoy sock knitting, you probably already know about this pattern because it's quite popular at the moment. I knit my first one when it first came out a long time ago. I've been inspired by quite a few other podcasters to start a new pair of socks, and I wanted a small project that I could take out with me. It's a lace sock. This pattern's really good because one, there is a YouTube tutorial and it is very much a step-by-step tutorial. Florence does a lot of those and I have knit most of them and they are very, very good. Even if you only know how to knit and purl, if you want to learn how to knit, that's where I would recommend starting. That's where I started. This design, she gives you the option to either pay full price for it, pay half price for it, or you can have it for free if you'd like. So a really, really great incentive to go out there and try it. I am knitting them on the recommended 2.25mm needles. I'm knitting the larger size because I'm always concerned that although I don't have very big feet, I really struggle to get certain things over my instep and like round my heel to get the cuff on. I'm knitting them in Filcolana Arwetta. That is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. It's very much a sock yarn. It's 210 meters per 50 grams. And this is the color 957, which is, I think, light gray melange. It's my favorite sock yarn to use. I have a lot of hand-dyed sock yarns, but I don't enjoy knitting with hand-dyed yarns, even though I have so many. So I'm thinking of destashing them. I've got hundreds of minis. That sounds so wasteful, but I've just collected them over the years and I don't enjoy knitting with them, so I don't really know what to do with them. I think I'll destash them. I really love working with this yarn and so far so good. The only change I've made is in the pattern. It is a half twisted rib or a twisted rib cuff. I have not done that. I actually cast on doing that and I didn't love how it looked. My 1x1 rib is really quite neat. I don't know why. It might be because I do a Norwegian purl. So I just stuck with a 1x1 rib and I'm really, really happy with it. So that is all for my knitting. This is editing Rebecca here. Excuse me, I've just been for a run. But I forgot to mention, and I did want to mention it, that I am going to be at Unravel Festival Autumn in Farnham, at the Farnham Maltings in September. So if you're going, and I think I'm going with a friend, but if you're going and you want to say hello, or you're going on your own and you want to come and say hi, just drop me a message on Instagram and we can try and arrange something. I did do several baby knits and a couple of very basic raglans. I did knit myself a step-by-step sweater by Florence Miller and a matching skirt #1 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. So That is a really cool two-piece. I need to photograph it and upload it to my Instagram soon. So hopefully I will be able to share that with you, but I won't go into details talking about it because they are two very, very basic patterns. I wasn't going to talk about acquisitions, but I will talk about a plan. My rule is now like 3 whips. That is my limit. And one of them being a sock is good because I don't need 3 full-size whips. So my kind of plan is I'm not going to cast on until I finish one of the items. But the last thing I was going to talk about was my kind of needles. It's not something I've spoken about before on the podcast, and I am very much a grab what's available needle knitter. I do only use interchangeable needles unless I'm knitting on very small needles, which are my sock needles, where I'll use magic loop. But it's taken me a couple of years to figure out which needles I really love working with. I'm going to share them with you. This is my little needle pouch. It's from Sostrini Grini, and I know that's not how it reads, but that's how I heard. I know it's a Danish brand, but that's how I heard a German person pronounce it. So I'm hoping I didn't just embarrass myself there. But the brand is, yes, Sostrini Green, which is a Danish brand, and I first discovered it in Denmark, but it's completely taken over the world, and now they have quite a lot of shops in Europe. And they do all sorts, it's not a craft store, but they do all sorts of little trinkets, and they do some yarn. I've used the yarn in the past, I'm not a big fan of it. I do want to try their yarn for socks, but their little trinkets are so cute. I've got so many stitch markers, needle cases, as in darning needle cases from them. And then I saw this, which is a little like wrap makeup bag thing. It is for knitting though, because it has knitting needles and yarn on the front. And I've come to the conclusion that I like knitting with metal needles. I have not used a huge amount of needles, and mainly I've only used Knit Pro, which are not the luxury brand of needles. They are very much, you can get them in most yarn stores, you can get them on Amazon. They are considered much more affordable than something like Sea Knits or ChiaoGoo. There's one more, Licker needles, which I almost bought a set of Licker needles, and I'm really glad I didn't because I'm really happy with these, and now I've kind of curated my own set. So there are 2 different types of Knit Pro needles in here. Both of them are metal. I have used the styrofoamy ones by them, which are like a wood plastic needle, and they're very, very good, cheap and cheerful. I've only broken the small ones. They're not easy to snap. They're not like bamboo needles, and they work really well with the interchangeable cords. But I've settled on the Knit Pro Novas. I feel like a 4.5mm is a good example to show you. So the 2 types that I use from the Knit Pro Novas are the standard Knit Pro Novas. I say standard, they're not really standard because I like using the short tips. So these I think are about 5 inches, but they actually measure up much smaller. I think they're 4-inch tip. But also I love the Knit Pro Novas Cubic, which are, if you look closely, cubes. But that's just because they're really nice to hold. They don't change how your knitting looks. I just really like them, but they're it's a little bit limited to find the short tip Nova Cubic than the standard one. So I have both. I think I have the Cubic in a 4 and a 4.5, which are my 2 most used needles. And they're metal, so they don't break. My very, very small ones have bent in the past, but I hold my needles very tight, so that doesn't surprise me. I think it would happen with any brand, but who knows, I can't say I haven't used the more expensive needle types. Yeah, I have all of these from a 2.25 all the way to a 5.5mm needle. I think, yeah, I have all those sizes. I'm not missing any in between there. I use the Knit Pro cords. I haven't had a problem with them breaking. I know a lot of people do. I'm not sure why that is. And I think it's because I quite often prefer to use the swivel cords. So I've got two types in here. I have the green swivel cord. And by swivel, it means that the end that you tie onto the needle twists. So you don't have to do this. And I have these all the way up to 80 centimeters. I couldn't get hold of the green ones any higher than 80 centimeters. I think they do 100 centimeter. But I found a purple one, which I don't think are very easy to find because usually the purple ones don't swivel, but these ones do. So I found a purple one and I think it's 150 centimeters. So this is my try-on cord that I keep in here. But I have the small green ones in a 40 centimeter, a 50 centimeter, a 60 centimeter and an 80 centimeter. The other thing, the last kind of important thing I have in here is just this. I'm not sure where it's from. I got it a while ago. It's just a plastic knitting gauge. It sometimes the number on needles can rub off. I don't get it very much with the metal ones because they do engrave the numbers on a lot of them, but I have had it where I've had a couple of metal ones where the numbers have been illegible. And so I got one of these and you just put the needle in the hole to see what size it is. And it also has a handy little measurement on it. So if I really quickly just want to measure gauge, it's there. And it fits perfectly in one of the pockets. And then I just have some stitch markers and a pair of scissors in there. And that is my little thing now. I try to limit my needle use to that little pack now, and that is just to stop me from losing needles and losing track of needles, and I like the metal ones and they're my metal needles. So that is it for today. I'm not going to promise you another podcast episode soon, but things are looking positive with my time. So let's see how my whips go, and I'm really going to make an effort to photograph them. I know I say that every time, but I really am rubbish at photographing my finished objects, and get them up on the Instagram, and then hopefully bring you another podcast episode soon. I really hope you've enjoyed it. There might be plenty of new people here because it has been a very long time since I've posted. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for sticking around. I really, really appreciate it. And if you want to help out my channel, please consider subscribing and leaving a like and a comment. I will see you guys soon. Bye.